Welcome to Rev Reads, your home for book reviews from the perspective of a pastor, and this is my 300th video. Seems a little crazy to me that I've made this many videos, the vast majority of them book reviews, but here we are, number 300, and I figured since we made it to 300, it's time for me to break the cardinal rule of book reviewing. The number one rule that you are told at the very beginning that not only applies to books, but people apply it to all aspects of life. And that number one rule for a book reviewer is don't judge a book by its cover. And right now, I'm going to judge books by their covers. So I've decided that for my 300th review to do something a little different, I'm going to look back at all of the physical copies of books that I've reviewed. So this is all the books I've reviewed that I have physical copies for. A large number of them I have digital versions of only and don't have a physical copy. So this is all the books that I actually held the book in my hand and to judge which books had the best covers, which were the 10 best looking books, best books to read, best books to hold, the ones that look the best on my bookshelf. And so I'm going to give you what is sort of my gut feeling of here are the 10 best books that you could get based upon the cover and the way they look and the way that they have been produced. So as you can see behind me, my bookshelves are empty because in order to figure out which book was the best one, I needed to get them all together. So I took all of the books that I had copies of that I'd reviewed and I laid them all out for you on my floor. And as we transition over there to look at those books, just forgive me while we're over there in that part of the video because the audio is probably not going to be as great. Maybe the video quality is not going to be. I'm going to be just recording it from my cell phone, hanging over top of those books. But here are the covers and the actual books of all the books I've reviewed that I own physical copies for. Well, here they are. Here are the books laid out that I have reviewed so far on the channel. All these books, for the most part, I have read from cover to cover, with a few exceptions of some that I haven't quite gone all the way through, such as Robert Alter's Hebrew Bible I didn't read sections of, and there was a middle portion in the Extent of the Atonement that I didn't read as well. But for the most part, all these books were read in entirety, reviewed on the channel, and now I'm going to decide which ones have the best look, the best feel of the books. And so just a few thoughts before we get to what are my 10 favorite of these books. First, one thing that I feel like I'm coming more and more solidified is that the spine of a book is just as important as the cover itself. So take, for instance, the book Dominion by Tom Holland. I'm not a huge fan of the look of Dominion, but I love the spine of that book. I think it looks awesome. And so even though it doesn't, not my favorite cover design, the spine looks great. And when a book is sitting on your bookshelf, what are you seeing on your bookshelf? You're not seeing the full cover. You're just seeing the spine of the book. Also, the publisher that I think most consistently puts out the most well-produced and best-looking books is Lexham. So I have a book here by Lexham Press. This is how the Church Fathers read the Bible. I also have Demons by Michael Heiser down there, Neo-Calvinism and a commentary on the Nicene Creed from Lexham as well. And I just feel like book in and book out, those books are the best of the books that get produced is what Lexham does. Probably in second would be B&H. So B&H, for instance, has Orthodoxy. It has the Extent of the Atonement. I think B&H probably falls in second. And so what I want to do is show you what books that I think are the 10 best looking books. And I want to say first, there are two books on here that I'm not putting in the top 10 simply because I don't think it would be fair to the rest of the books that are out here to put them in the same category as those books. And the two books that they're so much better than the other books because of the way that they're designed and they're meant to be, and they're not even going to get judged in the list, is first Borderland. Borderland is basically a picture version of a exhibit at the Answers in Genesis by the Creation Museum and the Answers of Genesis. And so, sorry for the glare on these pages, but this book is amazing. And to just put this book even in a category of the other regular books that I've read just feels unfair. And so Borderland, so good that it doesn't even get judged in this category. The other book that I feel the same way about is the Babylon Bee Guide to Democracy. Different type of look, but at the same time, I loved the way this book was laid out. I loved the way that it looked. It's excellent, an improvement on their first guide. But great books by Babylon Bee and Borderland. Not even going to get judged in the list because I feel like they belong outside of it. So without further ado, I'm going to go back to my desk and I'm going to show you the top 10 books as far as the cover and the design from my opinion. So those were all of my books laid out on the floor, and now I'm going to have to spend a good chunk of the afternoon putting them back on my bookshelf where they belong. But here, let me count down for you my top 10 best looking books, the ones that I think have the best covers, best designs, they just feel the best in my hands. So the number 10 book is Demons by Michael Heiser. I just think this book has a nice design. I like the way it looks, both sitting on the bookshelf and the front cover. It's got a good feel to it. It's well laid out inside, which makes it easy to read. One thing that is very important to me in what books I think are the best for reading is that you gotta have footnotes instead of endnotes. Endnotes are the devil, and I will never go and look back at your endnotes, but footnotes I love to read. And so Demons by Michael Heiser. This is the first of 2 books from Lexham Press that will be in the top 10. So that's my number 10 book. Number 9 is Dispensationalism by Charles Ryrie. This book is by Moody Publishers. And what I love about this book is that while the cover doesn't anything blow you away at all, this is actually my favorite spine of all my books. I don't know why, but I just love the way that they printed dispensationalism on the side of this book. It kind of pops out a little bit. And so a big fan of the way that this version of dispensationalism, this edition by Moody Publishers looks. Again, it's got a good layout in the side. The notes are at the end of each chapter instead of footnotes. So not as good on that one, but at least they're not at the end of the book. But again, I'm a big fan of Dispensationalism by Charles Ryrie. And again, this is mostly getting in the top 10 because it's my favorite spine of all the books that I own. And then number 8 is Forsaking Israel by Larry Pettigrew and more. And I just love this book. I love the way it feels. I think it looks fantastic. As soon as it came in the mail, I was like, man, this looks really good as a book from a little publisher, relatively speaking, and just really happy with this book. Again, it's a book with footnotes and not with endnotes. Good, well laid out, easy to read as far as the formatting goes. So I'm just a big fan of the way this book got designed, the way that it looks. I like the color scheme on it and the little design with the 10 Commandments there. It's just, I think this is a great, well-designed, well-laid-out book. So Forsaking Israel, that is my 8th book. Number 7 is a book by Salem Publishing. I got a lot of books by Salem, and I think this is their best book look-wise as far as the books that I got, not counting the Babylon Bees books, the guide books. So I love Is Atheism is Dead. The cover image on this, I think, is awesome. I think this book just pops, and again, the spine as well just looks fantastic. And then in the book, there's just kind of the right amount of color pictures there to relate to the things that Metaxas is writing about in this book. And there's some archaeology stuff that he deals with where it is helpful to have the images in there. And not only does he have those pictures, but he has some black and white pictures as well throughout. And so just like the way this book is laid out, I enjoyed reading it. And so I think Salem did an excellent job with Is Atheism Dead by Eric Metaxas. This is just a great look. And I've read several of Eric's books, and I think this is the best of his books as far as the way that they look. My next book is the oldest one. This is a book that was published in 1950 for this version. This is Here I Stand, the story of Martin Luther by Roland Banton. And this makes the list because this book is filled with illustrations that Banton collected of these old woodcuts that are actually from the days of Martin Luther. So these are contemporary to his time, and they are probably ranked up as the best illustrations I've seen of any book, because it's not an artist today rendering what they think things looked like back then, but this is the actual, you know, woodcut illustrations that were made contemporary with Martin Luther, and so they're scattered throughout the book, and just great. So love this book. Here I Stand, Life of Martin Luther, 1950. I hope if they have new versions of this, they continue to have the woodcut pictures in it, but here's my version from 1950, and big fan of it. My next book is my number 5 book, and that is Life is Impossible by Nick Lannon. This is put out by Mockingbird, so it's second of the sort of small publishers that I have. Mockingbird might be the smallest, but I love this book. I love the way the cover looked. As soon as I saw the cover with the theme of Life is Impossible, I'm like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. And one thing is that I'm not overly a big fan of books with white covers, because I feel like if you have a couple of books on your bookshelves in a row with white colors, they just kind of blend into each other. Nothing stands out. And so what I love about this book is that you have this white color, but then the spine, it pops and changes color. And so love this book. I love the way that it looks. So just great book, great layout. This was just a fun joy to read. Pretty standard modern printing in there, and just a really big fan of Life is Impossible by Nick Lannon. So great job, Mockingbird, on that book that you have produced. My number 4 book is the second one by Lexham Press, and this is a new book for them this year called Neo-Calvinism. I am not a Neo-Calvinist, but I just think this book looks great. I was thrilled when I got it in the mail, because I was like, I cannot wait to put this book on my bookshelf. Feels good, looks good, love the layout. Again, it's got footnotes and not endnotes, and so it's been really a joy to have, and it's been an interesting journey to learn about Neo-Calvinism and what the teachings of that sort of smaller version of Calvinism. And so just love the way this book looks, love the layout. It just looks fantastic. When I got it, I'm like, why can't more books like that look like this? This is so good. And that brings me to a B&H book that I think is about at the same level as Neo-Calvinism. I could have put either 1, 3, or 4 on my list. I like them both. But B&H I put as third just because I have 2 Lexham books on here, and that is Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. So this is a new recently published version of Orthodoxy with notes and annotation by Trevin Wax. I love the way that this book looks so much. I actually requested to get this from B&H simply because I thought it looked great, and I was like, yeah, I guess I'll read it too. And it was a fun joy to read about Chesterton. Again, footnotes instead of endnotes. It's just got a great layout, and B&H just did a fabulous job producing this book. I love everything about it and the way that it looks. And I gotta say, if you are someone who is a fan of G.K. Chesterton and you like to read his writings, this has got to be something that is right on your wish list to want to have. So this is a great look, and it is the 3rd best looking book that I own. And number 2 is Person of Interest, J. Warner Wallace. This book just looks so cool. The blood spatter on the cover just, grabs your attention as soon as you see this. Good spine as well, as far as being able to see what the book is when it's sitting on your bookshelf and remember about it. But I love this book. It catches my eye. And one of the best things about it is this book is filled with these illustrations by J. Warner Wallace that just add so much to the book and really help explain and illustrate what Wallace is talking about. You feel like you are a cold case detective on the case, looking all of this stuff up with the art, and J. Warner Wallace drew these himself, and so I just could not get enough of just the way this book looks, the way it's laid out. I've recommended this for numerous people, and every person who has told me they've gotten this book just end up devouring it. And part of the reason you fly through it so fast is because it is just so well laid out. It looks so good. The illustrations that are in the book just make you want to keep going all the more. So I love Person of Interest. So to me, if you're going to have 2 just regular books on your bookshelf because of the way that they look, I would say these are the books that I would put on my bookshelf and want to have, regardless of the content that's inside them. I want them for the way that they look. And the best thing about them is is really great content inside both of them as well. So this is my second book on my list for the way that it looks. And my number one book on the list is the best looking Bible that I own. And that is the Hebrew Bible by Robert Alter. And I made sure to emphasize this when I reviewed it back a couple of years ago, but I love the way this Bible looks. It is just fantastic. The box that it comes in looks great. And then the cover of each of these is just, they're all individually a work of art. And then the Bible itself, it's just got a great layout for the biblical text. So here's, you can see Psalms there on the screen. Again, the Bible is giving you footnotes and not endnotes. So you get Alter's notes on the text, why he translated it the way that he did. It's got a little bit of a commentary on there. And sometimes Alter has some excellent notes on the Hebrew text and on the meaning of it. Other times where him coming from his background of Judaism, I obviously don't agree with him, but whenever I am preaching or teaching on the Old Testament, I am pulling out Alter's Hebrew Bible. And like I said, it looks so good. Out of all the Bibles that I've seen, this is easily the best looking, the most attractive. I love reading through it. The layout is great. And so, yeah, no, other Bible publishers, like there's some wonderful Bibles and they make those amazing ones that you can reskin with the finest of leather. But man, the art on Robert Alter's Hebrew Bible is just amazing, and I love it, and I just think it's just such a great looking Bible. So there is my favorite looking book out of all the books that I've reviewed, and this is the best book out of all the books that I've owned. I found it for sale on Amazon for 40 bucks when I purchased it and thought it was a steal. In my opinion, if you're going to spend anything below $100 for this book, you're getting your money's worth for it. I think it is a value to me of $100 to get this because it just looks so great. There's so much in it. I'm thrilled by the Hebrew Bible by Robert Alter. So that is my number one favorite looking book. So here I am for video 300. I am judging books by their cover. And let me know what is the book that you have that you think looks the best out of all the books that you own. Maybe I'll take you up on it and want to purchase it to put it back on my bookshelf. And if you are someone who is new to Rev Reads, I would love to encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you can be a part of the regular book reviews that we have here. I think my channel is pretty unique. I don't know anybody else out there who is reading through entire books and then reviewing every single week 1 or 2 new books. And I would love for you to subscribe and be a part of what we're doing here. But thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoyed this look at the covers and the design of all the books that I've been reading.